International financial centers are jurisdictions, legal jurisdictions around the world, within countries, usually a city, where very deliberate steps have been taken to make that jurisdiction very attractive to institutions and investors, financial institutions, asset managers, banks, and as well as investors. And because of the characteristics of this jurisdiction, people find it to be a safe place by which you go and make investments and you look for returns. And so you think about London, you think about Singapore, you think in the UAE, you have Dubai, in Africa, you have Morocco and Mauritius. And all of these cities within countries have become international financial centers that have witnessed significant inflow of international capital as a result of specific steps they have taken to make their destinations attractive for those who are seeking safe returns.
So what would be your response to those that say, well, Lagos is the commercial capital of Nigeria, Nigeria being the largest member of ECOWAS, so as the West African region is concerned, all the major banks headquartered in Lagos, tech companies and so on. What would change what the LIFC is going to bring from where we are now?
So it's like the story of, when you have a lot of muscle, but muscle alone does not make you competitive. Your brain, your heart, your soul, okay, must also be brought to the table. And in fact, those are the things that activate the muscle, okay? There are 22 characteristics that international financial centers have. And it's become a very technical issue in the sense that investors are very specific as to whether those characteristics are present or not. And if they're not there, they won't come and make investments. And I'll just give you examples. One obvious example is the rule of law, the legal system, you would be surprised, the infrastructure, what type of internet speed is available in this market and so on. So yes, you could have significant GDP taking place within the country, okay, and yet just having poor internet, having a poor court system and so on does not allow international investment come in. And also, let me explain that it's also a catalyst for domestic investment because the international investors don't want this environment just for them, okay? They want this environment as a gateway that allows them participate in what is taking place domestically. So it's really the creation of a very virtuous circle for investment to thrive. And the more you create it, the more investment comes, the better the environment and so on. And that's why you see cities like Dubai and, you look at Singapore and even Mauritius and you go there and you say, wow, I used to come to this place 40 years ago and look at how, it works now, Hong Kong and so on.
With respect to the private and public sector relationship, you as the chair of the board for EnterpriseNGR, what is it bringing to the table from the private sector side, and what Lagos State's relationship as well for this initiative?
So EnterpriseNGR is Nigeria's leading advocacy body for the financial and professional services sector. We're talking banking, we're talking insurance, we're talking asset management, or you like capital markets, we're talking law, we're talking accounting, consulting, fintech, and so on. And for these professionals and for the firms that, they operate in to thrive, they must have customers to serve. They must have an economy that is really growing. And, the growth of economies come from investments. So we've been asking ourselves, how do we catalyze investments into Nigeria? And how do we also mobilize investments domestically? And we studied cities, especially London. And the answer was almost in front of us. If you make your country a haven for investment, you take the deliberate steps to make it attractive, you see huge inflows of investments. Of course, it's not something that the private sector can do on its own. A lot of it depends on public policy. A lot of it depends on the environment. And these environmental factors are largely things in the control of government. So you need the private sector and the public sector to come together. Now, you just mentioned West Africa and Nigeria's positioning in West Africa? Well, you know, Lagos is, I think, Africa's, you know, 5th largest economy. And so if there was a place in Nigeria that you have a natural advantage, okay, to work on, it would be Lagos. And so we approached the Lagos state government. And of course, the governor, who himself, you know, in his private sector life was a financial services professional, got it. And, you know, I just think that right now, this is Nigeria's moment. We have a president who was a leading corporate treasurer when he was in the private sector. We have a central bank governor who was an international banker. We have a minister of finance whose career was steeped in markets, and, you know, and so they've seen this, and they've seen how nations have transformed through international financial centers. So I think, you know, the stars are lining up for Nigeria at this point in time. So there's never been a better time for the private sector to work with the public sector towards something that will be really transformational, such as an international financial center.